guys, we're back and we are so excited. We got so much great feedback and so we're really excited to bring this video to you. All of you guys were commenting and messaging me about how you couldn't wait. And so we want to thank you, give you a shout out because we're doing it for you and we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. So we are going to go ahead and start with what we feel is the foundation of really living a happier life.
Okay.
And that obviously is the point of these videos, right? Is to teach you, educate you, and provide you with strategies on how to be happier. But in order to be happier, you really need to understand yourself.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's everything, truly. And most of us don't, honestly.
That's right.
You know, if I'm being very honest, most people I meet really don't ever take the time to understand themselves or their personality.
Okay.
And so let's talk about personality today.
Okay.
And we're going to give you a strategy, you know, as a takeaway that you can actually start using right away in your life. And we're hoping that you'll find really good success with that. We know you will if you do it. I mean, that's proven, right?
Okay, absolutely. Right.
So let's talk to them about this personality structure that you often teach your clients about.
Okay. Well, I found that, like you said, most people don't really understand themselves or why they feel the way they do or do the things they do. And so I realized through my years of doing therapy that education on this topic is going to be big.
Yes.
Because I am a strong proponent of the saying that knowledge is power.
Yes.
And the more knowledgeable you are, the more powerful you are.
Yeah.
And
truly,
so
you guys.
We're going to give you knowledge through this series, and this will make you more powerful people.
It will. It will empower you in all areas of your life. Truly. I promise you that. Brian does it. I do it. Everyone we teach this to, when they do it, they just come back. It's incredible, right?
The feedback from my clients is
seriously, you guys, it's crazy.
It's really, it's great. It's just
really
that understanding. And basically, I explain to them is if you've ever shopped at IKEA before and you bought a shelf in a box.
Yes.
And you got that shelf home and the instructions weren't there.
Okay, if you've ever shopped at IKEA, you know, obviously, you open this box and it's so many parts, and if you don't have those instructions, you truly have all these parts and nothing to do with them.
You have chaos.
It's chaos. You don't know where to start.
And a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
But as soon as you have those instructions, you can take all that chaos and make something useful and good out of it, such as a nice bookshelf. And that's the analogy that I use. We have the instructions here. We're going to give you the instructions for you to put yourself together to get that understanding. And that's what this is all about. It's for you to understand you and control you. Because if you want to make changes, you change yourself, and the people around you will change if you make changes, believe it or not.
It's truly incredible how contagious that can be.
Absolutely.
I've really witnessed that a lot, and really with myself.
Okay.
And, you know, since I've become a health coach, I feel like I've changed so much.
Oh, absolutely.
So
You're more
much.
insightful.
Way more insightful, more in control, and that control really helps me. So, that, you know, is something too. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so let's talk about the personality development. Where does it come from and how does it start?
Right.
Okay, so believe it or not, I believe, my theory is that your personality develops prenatally, before you're born. Right after that moment of conception.
Wow.
Okay, right? Why do I say that? I believe personality development is driven by two factors: nature and nurture. And nature, basically, what we mean by that is the genes that you get from your parents. You get 50% from your mom and 50% from your dad. And depending on what genes you get, that has a lot to do already with how you're going to develop, what kind of person you're going to be. Okay? And then besides that, as you're that zygote, we call it, the cell that you are, as you develop during those 9 months, does mom exercise? Does she eat healthy? Does she do yoga and stay calm?
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Or is she hysterical? Is she upset? Does she drink alcohol and drugs? And for example, with alcohol, we can see the physical, what it does. Right. With fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yeah.
So there's many things that we don't see that actually affects that person.
Right.
Okay. So then when that child is born, that's when most of the nature begins. Okay. Or I'm sorry, the nurture. The nurture part of the development begins. And that nurture is how you're taken care of. Mm-hmm. Okay. And in another series, I'll talk about the stages of development of a guy named Erik Erikson and his psychosocial stages of development. And I'll just mention today, his very first one is called Trust versus Mistrust.
Yes.
And that's what's taking place as soon as you're born. You're learning to either trust the environment or mistrust the environment.
Right. And so that's based on how you're cared for as that little baby.
That's exactly right. That, for example, that first year you're in your crib and you're in your diaper soaking wet and you're hungry and you're crying out. How does that caregiver provide for you? What do they do? Do they run in immediately and pick you up and hold you and change your diaper and coddle you and tell you nice things? Or are they, hey, shut up in there, I'm watching my TV show. Oh. I'll get there when I'm ready, And this is real reality for some people. Yeah. And this right here starts to tell you, the world's a dark place.
Yeah.
It's a scary place.
I was reading student papers, actually, yesterday.
Okay.
And I gave them this assignment to reflect on their life and everything they knew about it and of it. And to kind of think about how they feel that's molded them into who they are now. Okay. And I was reading this paper and it just, really touched my heart because I just thought, bless her heart, she was left with her dad when she was little. Her mom would have to go to work, but her dad was an alcoholic.
Okay.
And he would get drunk and he would just leave her there crying in dirty diapers. I mean, so bad that the neighbor had to come over and take care of the baby. It's just very tragic, right? And this is the heartbreaking part about being a teacher. But it was very insightful to her to think back to all of that, how she was cared for through those young years, and realized that made her into this shy, quiet, mistrusting young adult.
Okay. And through that understanding, that reality you just mentioned, that gave her understanding, and she could make some changes now.
Right, and that really was the point, and that is the point here for you guys too, right?
Okay, absolutely.
Once you understand that personality that you have and why you have that personality, then you can start to make the changes to be exactly who you want to be.
Absolutely. And that was Sigmund Freud, his whole thing is talk therapy, is that if you talk it out and get understanding, you got better, called the talking cure. Okay. So through that understanding, that's what we're doing here today. Help you get some self-understanding.
Yeah.
Now, this can help you to a large degree understanding yourself, but this does not replace actually going in and getting some therapy itself.
Yeah, these are just little tidbits, really, you guys, and strategies, just small things, but obviously everyone is a very individual, unique story and case, and so we're not by any means implying that this replaces
this is a very generalized.
Right.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and get into this. I'm going to show you here, this is a picture of an iceberg, and this iceberg represents the human mind, the adult mind actually, and it shows that a majority of the iceberg is below the water level. And when we use this as a comparison to our mind, that means the majority of our mind, our thoughts, our thinking is really feelings. It's below the conscious level, below our awareness. And as we were talking, when we're born down here at the very bottom with something called the id. Freud called it the id, and in Greek, it's our it. And this it is driven by what we call the pleasure principle in life. Okay? Looking for gratification.
Immediate, right?
Immediate. Yeah. And this is our wish, or I wish I had this. Okay? So looking for pleasure. This is also considered our primary processor of information. Okay. What that means is everything that we're told, everything we see, smell, taste, or touch goes to our emotions for processing first, so we give it an emotional response. Okay. Okay? Like the kids the other night with that new casserole recipe that you made. Their immediate response is, gross! Oh, I'm not eating that!
That looks nasty.
It looks nasty. An emotional response. Okay? Right. Based on just a quick observation of it. And after we told them, well, I guess you're not going to eat anything tonight, they decided they would try it. Right. And within a few seconds of tasting it, they were amazed how wonderful it tasted.
Oh, it looked so gross, but it actually tastes good.
Right. Yeah. So that id, once again, processes, most people act off that id and immediately react to things. And what we're trying to teach you here today is this id, this child, if he's ruling your life, you're going to probably not doing real well. You probably don't have a lot of friends, and you're probably not really happy with yourself because your child is running your life. And we want you to understand and learn about your child. I actually encourage a lot of people to name their child and call them out when they're taking over, so they can have better understanding when that's going on there. Okay, and then this id also, it's driven off of psychic energy, we call it, our energy. And we have both positive and negative energy. Okay? Freud called it the eros and the thanatos. I like to call it our light wolf and our dark wolf. Okay?
Right. And so this is something we've incorporated in our household with our kids and with each other and to ourselves. And our light wolf is obviously the positive one, where you're feeding positive thoughts, positive comments,
loving, nurturing.
Right. And our dark wolf is when we're feeding the negative. And so I think that human tendency is to feed the dark wolf, which is unfortunate, but it's just kind of our natural tendency. But it's toxic.
Because we want to feel good, and sometimes we feel good by putting others down. Right. But it's a very quick feel good, very temporary. Because we often get the guilt that follows it. Right. So it's not a real good feeling. Right. So we got to be very careful of criticizing and blaming others. Yes. That's a quick way to start feeding that dark wolf. And causing problems in our lives. So our thing is, you pay attention to, are you feeding your light wolf or your dark wolf in your life? Right. Because your light's going to be that good feeling and that happiness. And people like those that feed that light. Yeah. Okay? So, at about the age of 3, this id starts to turn into our ego. Okay? And once again, that id, he's very selfish and wants things for himself. But through interactions with the environment and watching others, he's learning how to treat others and how to be. And so if you're raised in a positive environment, you have the tendency to be more positive and be more of a helping person. Okay? And so this ego then develops. And the ego is the I, the person that you are. And it's the reality. It's the thinker. Now, you'll see that the ego is in touch with the emotions, but is mostly a thinker and wants to decide what's right and what's fair.
And so it's really that more rational...
Oh, it's the rational, it's the balance of our personality. Okay. Okay, so it's what we call, when your ego's in charge, when your you are in control of you. Okay. Okay? And then after that ego develops... not too long after you start learning about things, the superego starts to come out. And the superego is a little bit of thought, but you can see majority up, back down to the emotions. Right. And the superego basically turns into the I know better than you. My way is better than yours. Yeah. Your opinion's fine, but mine is right. Right. And once again, we're going to those emotions. Because I have my opinions... and you have your opinions, and they can both be valid. Right. And that's what we got to learn, that it's not a right or a wrong situation. Correct. And something else that we've learned along the way in our life from a man, the great Jim Rohn, a speaker that we know from way back.
Yes.
He once said that old school is, you take care of me and I'll take care of you. But we found out that didn't work very well.
Yeah, that doesn't work out because the only way you can actually take care of somebody else is if you're taken care of already.
That's right, right. So if I'm taking care of you and I feel like you're stressed out and I tell you, calm down, honey, calm down, what kind of a reaction am I going to get?
Don't tell me to calm down.
There we go. And so then there we go. We're escalating and we're fighting.
We all know this, yes.
So the new way is, I'll take care of me for you. If you take care of you for me,
yes.
And that means when I see her flustered and worked up, what do I need to do? I need to calm me. I need to breathe and relax. And she will see that, and immediately she'll start breathing because she'll understand, oh, I need to take care of me. I've lost control of me.
Right.
And I don't say anything because I'm just going to set her off. I'm not this superego, all-knowing, knowing better than she does. And I don't want to come off that way. I want to come off in a way that I love you. And I want to nurture you and help you back so we can be together again and have that balance.
Right.
And so that's, once again, a lot of what we're talking about here today is getting that happiness.
Yeah. I love you too.
Okay.
So, yeah, and, you know, something that I thought of was we've really had to learn, too, to humble ourselves in our relationship, in our marriage, and, you know, be able to say, I'm sorry, even if you, I mean, you know that you were a smaller percentage,
okay,
you know, of the responsibility of whatever it was, misunderstanding or, you know, just a disagreement, but being able to own whatever portion of that, because
absolutely,
if you're both having this conversation or disagreement or what have you, you're both playing a part.
Absolutely.
And so you both have a responsibility. And I'll be really honest, you guys, this is something I'm still working on. I have a really hard time with this, but I really have improved in this and being able to come to you and say, you know, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
You know, and I used to be like, we had this joke that I wouldn't say I'm sorry because I didn't have very many sorries in my bank, so I didn't want to use them frivolously.
Was empty.
But my sorry bank has really filled up. And I understand that if I was part of that, I need to own that. And so, and he does the same thing. I mean, I know that sometimes it's just I'm really tired and I'm moody and I just am taking things all wrong, right? But we both will come to each other and just say, I'm sorry for my part. And I think that that works because you are still giving to them, the other, but you also, it's almost a compromise for you too, because it's my part, right? And we don't need to talk about how much of it was your part and how much of it was my part. But just, you know, something, I think that's just a really good tip for marriage.
And this, once again, comes down to personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility.
That means you doing you. Don't do your wife, don't do your husband, do you.
And don't worry about the other one. Just stop and think, what is my part in this? What am I doing? What can I change right now that I probably shouldn't be doing or should be doing? Okay.
And once again, the key you just said there is stop and think.
Yes.
Separate the thinking from your feelings.
Yeah.
And when you can stop and do that, you may not like what your thoughts are telling you need to do. Your id may be telling you, no, don't go and apologize. She's the one.
You guys know you've thought that.
And that's
thought it.
And that's your id in control, and it's going to get you nowhere. But your ego's telling you, you love her. You want to have a good the rest of the evening. So go out and tell her, I'm sorry.
Right.
I should not have done this. I should not have raised my voice. Mm-hmm. Even though she was yelling at me from the time I walked in the door. That doesn't matter. I lost my control, and that was my bad.
Mm-hmm. And this extends into all areas.
All areas.
Parenting, this is probably one of my priorities right now.
Yes.
You know, when I was growing up, there was a lot of tension in the house, and there was a lot of yelling at me, and you know, just getting very aggravated with me, and angry, and you know, when I didn't do something right, or just what have you, and it was very stressful.
That's a great example.
It really is something I'm working on with our kids, where I will go to them and say, you know, I'm sorry we had that disagreement. I should not have raised my voice, or, you know, I lost my temper. And it's really been very heartwarming to see from our kids what I can get back out of them when I do that. And actually, I do this with my students also.
Okay.
And I'm very, hey, you know what? That was my mistake. Let me fix that, or let me help you with that, because I need to own me, right? And what I did. And our son, we were in the car the other day. I told you we had great conversation, and we had a disagreement. He was just really frustrating me, wasn't doing what I was asking him to do. You know, I've asked 5 times, and I said, hey, I'm really sorry, bud, that I yelled at you. You know, I shouldn't have done that. That was not the way to handle that. And so I just really want to let you know that I apologize. And he just so humbly just went, I'm so sorry for my part too, Mom. I should have just done it, and, you know.
And that's great role modeling.
And so that was great.
Absolutely.
And these are the tools that we didn't get these, you know, when we were kids. I mean, our kids, great for them. They're going to grow up with all these tools. But as adults, you know, you guys and us, our parents didn't teach us this stuff.
And so the most important thing here is, remember when you were a child. Remember how you were treated.
Think about
and ask, did I like that? When I was a
Right.
child, we were yelled at for everything. And I think back, did I like that? No, I didn't.
Right.
So why am I going to do that to my kids?
Yeah.
Is that what we do? Just pay it forward? Or do we make changes?
Right.
And then something else I found out with our kids is if we start to yell, they start to get an attitude, and they get upset.
They get really
and
yucky.
it gives them permission to get emotional as well.
Right.
So if I stay calm, it doesn't really give them permission to start getting upset. Because I'm just saying, look, this is reality. You were asked to take care of your homework, and you're not doing it, and that's disrespectful. And that really gets to their emotions more than if I come in yelling at them and threatening to spank them or taking things away. I find that to be much more effective, to stay calm and stay in the reality to deal with these things. And I think if you learn how to use these tools, you'll find it's much more effective. And when you used to get upset and yell at them, wow, the whole evening would just be almost come apart.
Done. Just don't be in my sight.
Right.
Yeah. And it was
But there's a whole new dynamic now that she doesn't go there.
Right.
And we have much more enjoyable evenings and much more happiness. And this is why we want to offer this to you folks, because we're learning this in our lives. And we have a great marriage, and we're very happy.
We do.
But it's come with a lot of work.
A lot. And continues. I mean, it will never end, the work, but it does become easier because it just becomes more natural the more you practice it.
It does. And if you decide to take control of you and not do your spouse, it's that much easier.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to control me than to try to control her. Trust me.
So the strategy here really is the thought stopping, which that's the actual term for literally stop and think about what you're feeling and how you should react versus, you know, because a reaction is often without thought. And so that is what we're teaching you today is stop and think.
Before you speak.
Before you speak. Before you react. Right. And understand, guys, that this goes for all areas of your life. Your marriage, your relationship with your significant other, your parenting, you know, whatever you do for a job or a career, and your health and fitness. You know, my challengers have learned that you really have to stop and think before you do, because if you just grab that cookie devour it. I mean, how many times have we eaten something and we're like, I didn't even taste that.
I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. And then comes all the horrible negative thoughts of, why did I do that? I shouldn't have eaten that. Now I feel so guilty. I feel fat, right? We know the gamut of thoughts that run through your head, the cycle. I know. I've lived it.
Right.
And so it leads to control.
Okay.
A feeling of control in your life. And self-control, you guys, I'm going to tell you, there's nothing like it. When you have self-control and you can exercise it regularly and daily, your life is going to improve tremendously. Yes. Tremendously.
And to be happy, you need to feel a sense of being in control.
Yes. So that's really what we want you to take away today, is just understanding the different parts of your personality, and that id and that ego and that superego. You know, Brian will often stop and I hear him talk to himself, or he's talking to the kids, and I'll hear, is this your id talking, or your ego talking, or your super ego talking, you know? And that's that thought stopping, where you're checking yourself, which part of my personality structure is at play right now?
Mostly you really just need to identify, are these feelings or are these thoughts?
Right.
Is this emotion or is this reality? And if you can separate those two, you will start to have that better understanding of yourself. And get that control. And like we were talking about, that thought stopping. When you thought stop, you need to think about the consequences of the action you were going to make. If I was to say that, what would happen over here versus if I wasn't to say that?
Right.
And that's actually, you know, to be honest with you, honey, I've thought of things before I've said it to you, and it's probably saved the whole evening. By
So have I.
So just things that, you know, you think you're going to say that's funny, and you say it in your head, and you realize that would not come off well. Thank you, God, for having me think before I spoke. And I'm telling you, it will change your life. It will make you happier, people. So
it will.
That's why we're here, is to help you with that.
Yes. So we would love for you to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We really hope this is a key takeaway that you will start using. Start tonight, start tomorrow. Don't wait, just start doing it. And, you know, we also like to say, which we love to quote Yoda, but there is no try. Do or do not. So just make the decision that I am going to do this. I'm going to stop and think before I react. And let us know how that turns out. We would love to hear, just even if they're little minor accomplishments that you made with that.
Absolutely.
We would love the feedback on that. So if there are any comments that you'd like to leave us, we welcome them all the time. And we thank you so much for watching, and we cannot wait to see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
Bye-bye. Okay, we told you, don't sit there and do that, okay? It's very distracting.